Hi, I'm Tara Antonellis. I'm a level 2 quantum healing hypnosis practitioner and Hellenistic astrologer. I read tarot and I also do Reiki. This is my podcast. Welcome to Seeking Beyond. Hi, guys. Welcome to Seeking Beyond. I have one of my good friends on the episode today, Miss Brooke Somers. Hi, how are
Hello,
you?
I'm great, Tara. How are you today?
I'm so good. I'm glad we're finally sitting down to talk as we got some exciting news because we're deciding to go somewhere extra special. This morning, Brooke messaged me with a desire to go to Sedona, which I've been wanting to do for ages now, and we're going. We're about to book those tickets and we're going to go see Bashar.
Absolutely very, very excited about that. Super excited.
It's so serendipitous too, because last night, me and my husband, Jordan, were actually talking about going to Sphere and seeing him in Colorado. And then this morning, you're like, let's go to Sedona and just chef's kiss.
Look what you created.
Exactly. I think so. I think so. So, I want to go ahead and introduce you to the audience. If you don't mind, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started on a journey of awakening and what's kind of brought you here.
Oh, absolutely. So my name is Brooke Somers. I'm a good friend of Tara's. We've actually worked together for several years now. And I would say probably for the past year or so, um, I was coming to a place in my life. I'll say I'm in my 40s. I'm over 40. That's specific enough. But I got to a place in my life where I was questioning, asking the big questions, who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? And I was noticing a lot of pattern behavior in myself. I was putting myself into these situations. And once I would get into these situations, I would say, why do I keep doing this to myself? So asking the big questions. Um, Leaning a lot into meditation and yoga practice and things like that, mindfulness techniques. And last September, I would say, um, things just began to unfold for me. And since then, it's been kind of like a snowball rolling down a hill, for lack of a better term. It's been beautiful. It's been very, very purpose driven, I feel like. So, yeah, a really beautiful experience.
It's something that was happening simultaneously, and I had no idea about actually. We were in the same building, and I didn't realize I had a like-minded individual right across the way. And one of our coworkers, actually, who knows what I'm into, Miss Rachel,
Yeah.
she, I guess, was having a conversation with you one day as you were going through these experiences and was like, you have to talk to Tara. And then you ended up having a QHHT session with me.
Yeah, it was very, I would say coincidental, but we realized by now that there is no such thing. Yeah, so what I was going through, I didn't have any outlets. I didn't have anyone that I could speak to regarding like what I was experiencing. I was having all these huge mind-opening experiences and I was so closed off into myself and I didn't really have anyone to like share those experiences with. And so, yeah, I was having a conversation with Rachel at work one day, and I was like, this is happening for me, and I'm experiencing this. And she was like, you've got to talk to Tara. And I'm like, Tara? She's like, yes, absolutely. She said, you two are on the same wavelength. I think it would be great for you. And I did. I approached you. You mentioned QHHT. I said, I'm all in. Let's go. And that in itself was a beautiful experience as well.
I feel like all kinds of things kind of just started rippling after you opened yourself up to that experience. And it's just been a roller coaster. And I'm excited for you to share some of your experiences. I know that it is a stepping stone for you to kind of talk about things publicly. So I commend you on that.
Thank you very
That's
much.
awesome.
Yeah, it has been an inner dialogue going on, I've been having with myself, like deciding when would be the right time to discuss some of the things that I've experienced, because you have to take into account that my upbringing, my social environment that I was raised in, like some of the things that I've experienced when there was always this fear that if I speak on them, people are going to say, "Oh, if she's really gone off the rails." Even the people that know me closely and know what kind of person that I am. So there's been this inner turmoil that I've had and that fear of judgment, but I've finally gotten to a place where I feel I can let a lot of that go, and primarily because I'm learning how much power there is to being your authentic self. And I just feel like I need to stand in that. I need to own that. And part of standing in that and owning that is sharing my experience. So
I love to be a part of it too.
I'm
My
glad you're
guilty
here.
pleasure.
Listen, if it had not been for you being in my circle, I some of the things that I've dealt with recently, I don't know if I would have been able to process them in the way that I did. I don't know if I would have transitioned as smoothly through them as I have. Like having you for a sounding board and having you in my corner has been huge for me because without anyone to talk, if I had been in that same state, not having anyone to talk to, not having you, I would just be internalizing all of this and that's just not good for you. So I thank you for that.
Oh, stop. I'm gonna cry. Oh, okay. You're welcome. I love it. I love it. And yes, okay. I won't get too gushy because I want to reciprocate that, but I will go ahead and shift. I want them to hear about how ironic our first interactions were because you are someone that I think channels through dreaming and later finding out that you've actually been logging your dreams for over a year
I
um
have, yeah.
is so just awesome for one, but to know that you actually may have channeled something now. Can you share about how you wrote about Route 80?
Absolutely. So, around about the time that I started, going through this awakening, this self-discovery experience, I was noticing that the frequency of my dreams, the intensity of my dreams, and the clarity of my dreams was really becoming profound. And I started to journal. And when I started out, I was just handwriting. I would wake up in the morning, I would keep my notebook and my pen beside my bed, immediately wake up and just journal everything. And I accumulated a couple of notebooks, quite a bit of dreaming. And I noticed trends and patterns. And, I could have a dream and just identify life lessons out of it. I'm like, oh, well, maybe this is a theme that I need to address in my own life. So, after a while of the handwriting of the notebooks, once I really realized there were patterns here, I was like, I got to start typing this stuff up. Like, I want to be able to control F my way through a Word document because there really are connections there. And I was speaking with you specifically about one dream that I had completely forgotten that I had. And this was prior to our Mother's Day QHHT session. Um, this was October, November of last year, I believe. Yeah. And so in the dream, when I went to type it up, I was like myself and Tara. And at the time we weren't even close. We weren't close in any way. We were acquaintances. We spoke in passing. But in the journal, when I wrote it down in the dream, I even put in quotation marks, Tara from work, rule Route 80, just to specify who it was that I was talking about. But yeah, even before our encounter, I was already seeing you in my path in some way. I just didn't realize that that's what it was at the time. So for the past year, really what I would say is my intuition has been developing. All of the clear senses have been developing as well. Very, very strong intuition, though. I would say primarily is intuition. And then the dreams. There are times when I feel so, I call it God smacked or blissed out, where I just feel like I'm flowing through daily life, being led almost, just being led around. Like I don't even have to put thought into it. It's just naturally
Nice.
following the flow.
I seriously thrive on that at work too. When I see you and you're in that energy, you kind of just recharge me sometimes when the mundane human life is occurring. You kind of just keep me going too. Actually said that to you.
Sometimes I feel like my feet aren't even touching the ground. It's pretty awesome. And I wish I could stay in that state all the time. And sometimes I get pulled back down to being a human, but just as often as I can, just staying in that blissful state. I lean very heavily into meditation. I do the yoga, I do the journaling. I have found myself being creative again. I've always been an artist since a child. I've been an artist, and those things just fell away with life. Like, I got married, I became a mother, I dove into work, and I left all of the things that I really love to do by the wayside. And all of those things that I enjoy so much, they're just flourishing again. Like I wrote a song in the shower. Am writing poetry. I'm painting again, which I absolutely love. It feeds my soul in so many ways. So just, yeah, doing the things that I love, craving doing those things and just being excited. I feel, I feel like I'm just a player in a beautiful fucking game.
Yes.
Truly, I
Same.
just feel like I'm a player in a beautiful fucking game.
Now, you started actually connecting with me and telling me after your session. After your session, we kind of bonded after that because I got to see you in a different state and a
Right.
more real form of yourself. And then you also had a confidant that you could talk about these experiences with. And things started to happen. Will you go into that?
Yeah. So, um, you know, I at work in passing, we would have these conversations about what we felt like we were supposed to do, we felt like our path was supposed to be, what we felt our passion what our passion was. And I kept saying, I see us standing outside this building. I see you and I standing outside this building. I keep having this random image pop into my head during meditation, and it's you and I, and we're standing outside of this building, and it's this we're going to build a healing center. We're going to build a spirituality center. We're going to be ground zero for spirituality in Clarksville, Tennessee. I said, and in this image that keeps popping into my mind, I turn to you and I say, we're going to call it the path. And you turn back to me and you're like, yes, we're going to call it the path. So now, all these desires and this excitement is being fueled in us. And, we encounter another similar minded individual at work, and the three of us start getting together and just feeding each other's fire. So I feel like we're really manifesting something right now. It's not here yet, but I definitely can tell it's on the way.
Yeah. And we both had some divine things happen um, right after each other too. It, although unfortunate with our grandmother's passing and their
Absolutely.
transition, there was, you know, life lessons that kind of happened to me, then right to you, and then corresponding links that is kind of setting us in a similar direction. And you said something to me the other day because one of my biggest passions right now is transitioning into following what makes me happy versus working at the post office.
Right.
And things are happening that are out of my control to kind of align me into that position. And you said something to me that once you you made a very similar decision that you're going to be leaving the post office as well. And
Yeah.
I wanted to as well. And I'm just like, man, I don't know how to do that. And you're like, what makes you think you can't? And
Yeah. I
didn't
said,
feel like
you have a
I
choice.
I didn't feel like I had a choice. And then once I realized I could absolutely do something else, boom, things start lining up. And I won't go into the details because it's rather personal, but the serendipity behind it was just ironic. And we're going to be leaving at the same time.
Yeah.
And our energy is going to be going into something else
Yes.
together,
Something that
and it's going
serves
to
us.
be
Yes.
and serves the community as well. And
Absolutely.
now that we've decided that the trajectory is already in motion and we are saying yes to things that bring us excitement, and we're about to go see Bashar in Sedona, and I'm so excited. But
Very
something else
excited.
happened, and I
Yes.
want you to talk about that.
Something big happened. And this was this was what caused me so much stress. This event is what I wrestled with for a while, that I really, really needed to come to terms with, process, work through myself before I could feel comfortable actually speaking on it. Um, and when my spiritual awakening started in September of last year, my life changed, right? But October 9th of this year, my entire universe changed.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, in a profound way. And if you would like me to go into detail on that, I'm more than willing to share that with your community.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Let's
Okay.
go.
So I'm a resident of Clarksville, Tennessee. Um, at the time I was living by myself. My mother and brother live with me, but like Tara said, our my grandmother had passed, and so they were out of town taking care of some of her personal affairs, the house, the possessions, things like that. And so I was staying at home. I have two dogs. Um, so I'll actually start with the 8th. Let's go back a day. So the morning of the 8th, I wake up and I had had this profound dream. I mean, it had such a sense of urgency to me. It had so much symbology, and I reach out immediately to you, and I reach out to our other friend, and I'm like, you guys have got to listen to this dream. I just felt like I was supposed to share it with you. I was like, I just got to get this out. You have to hear it. It's so profound. There's something coming. Like I was insistent that something big was coming. And this whole day, I had just been, my mind is reeling and just processing this dream and thinking about the potentialities of what this dream could mean. And so when I laid down the night of the 8th, I was still a little bit, I was off center. I wasn't balanced. I was feeling pretty unsettled. I typically don't have a lot of trouble falling asleep, but this particular night, I had a hard time falling asleep, probably around 11:30. I kennel my dogs at night. They don't sleep with me because that's just not good sleep. So I kenneled them. I went to bed. And it was just before 2 o'clock in the morning, the dogs began to bark. I make up, it's probably neighborhood cats. They're fighting outside. The dogs are barking. I'm just making logic in my mind of why they're barking because they typically don't do that. So I open my bedroom door. I, shout down for them to be quiet, go climb back in the bed. And not even 5 minutes had passed. I had not fallen back asleep yet. The dogs began to bark again. So I am kind of irritated. I value my sleep very much. So I put on my flip-flops and headed downstairs. And when I get to the bottom of the stairs, my little corgi, Kevin, typically when I round the bottom of the stairs, he would be sitting there looking at me and waiting on me to let him out of the kennel. But this time, when I get to the bottom of the stairs, he is standing alert and he's growling at the wall, which I thought was odd. But then again, it kind of reinforced that there must be something outside that he's barking at. So I let the dogs outside to use the bathroom. Takes a few minutes. I finally get them back in the house, get them kenneled, and I'm going to go back upstairs and get back in the bed. So I lay down. It's probably by this time 10 minutes after 2, and I'm just getting settled in. And I guess it would probably help if I gave like a layout of my bedroom. So I have my headboard of my bed is up against the wall. I sleep on the right side of my bed, and my bedside table is directly next to me. The only light source I sleep with at night is a tiny little moon-shaped salt lamp that my brother gave me, and that's my only light source when I'm sleeping. So as I lie in the bed and I have my head turned to the right on my pillow, I can see the soft glow of the salt lamp coming through my eyelids. And I'm doing some math in my head. Like I'm not even close to going back to sleep yet. I'm thinking, okay, it's 2 o'clock in the morning right now. My alarm clock's going to go off at 5:30. I'm doing the math and I'm pretty irritated that I'm not going to get a lot of sleep this night. And as I'm doing this, something moves and blocks the light out. It comes in between my eyes and this lamp that's on my bedside table. And I immediately know that I am not alone in my room. And before I continue, I'm going to tell you this. So I can tell you specifically when the experience started, and I can tell you specifically when the experience ended. It started when I realized that there was someone in my room. It ended when I realized I was alone in my room. And everything that happened in between, where we have the natural tendency to try to delineate it and put it in order. This is what happened first, this is the middle, and this is the end, like in a story format. What happened I did not experience it that way. It was it was as if the events were simultaneous. It was as if the events were all happening at the same time. And it was as if the events occurred. It was as if the events occurred outside of time and space. So once I realized that I was not alone in my room, the thought enters my mind. I am not alone in my room. And I also realize just instinctively that if something moved past my eyes in this manner and blocked out the light, that it would have had to come through my bedroom wall. I had both of these thoughts at the same time. When I had these thoughts, it was as if someone were already inside my mind. They shared information with me. They calmed me. It wasn't a coddling or loving communication. It was just very matter of fact, very business transactional. Um, it wasn't as if I was being spoken to in words. It was telepathic. But when a lot of people hear telepathy, they think that you would hear words in your head, but it didn't occur like that at all. It was just I went from not knowing to knowing. It was just I had no information and now I had the information. Um, so the information that was shared with me was that there was absolutely nothing for me to be afraid of, that no harm was going to come to me, that I had agreed to this long before I ever came here, that this was a part of my soul contract, that I was keeping up my end of a bargain and they were keeping theirs. Um, it was explained to me that eons ago, that they were very much like us, that when they advanced first more technologically, and without their realizing it, they had developed a technology that they implemented at such a foundational level of their civilization that once they realized that that specific technology degraded their biology, it was already too late. It was implemented in such a way that to eliminate the technology would eliminate the civilization. They wouldn't be able to survive it. So it was explained to me that the relationship that they and I have is a symbiotic relationship, that they were there to do a service for me and I was there to do a service for them. They referred to it, I do remember here, the terms gift and harvest. So they were going to be taking their essence from me and I would be receiving, I don't know whether to refer to it as a reactivation. I saw a light switch in the off position and being flipped to the on position. So whether that means restoring something that previously humans had the ability to do, whether that means, reactivating a part of the DNA, I can't assume. They just showed me the light switch going from the off position to the on position. So I can tell that there are two entities in my room. Um, while I was lying with my head facing to the right, I could feel a being getting very close to my face, whether it was their own face or a hand, something was moving very closely to my face. I could feel the energy off of it as they moved close to me, but I'm in a paralyzed state. I cannot move. Um, I cannot open my eyes. It's like being put into a trance, but you're still alert and conscious. Um, they never touched me. They simply used energy, intention, whatever mastery of quantum physics that they wield to manipulate my body. They repositioned me in my bed, whereas I was turned on my with my head turned to the side. They relocated me. They moved me straight as an arrow in my bed with my arms down to my side. And the one to the right I never saw, but the one at the foot of my bed I did see. It was a being that was about 6 feet tall, large, almond shaped, deep set, dark eyes, enlarged cranium, and it had its elbows out at 90 degrees and its hands open, facing outward at its heart. And there was so much raw power before the process that he performed even began. Just the presence of him in my bedroom, he oozed energy. It was just so powerful, even being in his presence. Um, Now, initially, when I saw this being, because it was in a dimly lit room and I saw the facial features, the large almond-shaped eyes, the enlarged cranium, like I automatically assumed because I'm seeing it, shadowy, I'm thinking it's grays. Like that's where the mind goes. We see it depicted in books and movies and it's everywhere in our culture. And so that's automatically what I assumed. Now, since this experience, I have come to realize something else, but that's neither here nor there. We can talk on that in a minute. Um, so what he begins to do now, some other information that I received was that they were going to be using my own endocrine system to help facilitate this process. I was told that hormones and endorphins were going to be released from my own system into my bloodstream that would help with slowing my heart rate, pain relief. I was told that I would not feel any pain, that there would be sensation, it would be extreme discomfort, but no pain. And then he began using his intention and he began sending a laser focused beam of energy into what I would refer to as my solar plexus. It was at the bottom of my rib cage. And it started off very mildly. It was almost enjoyable at first, sending just pulsating waves of energy out through all of my extremities, through my whole body. And as he moved upward through my center and got to my heart, it became a little more intense. And it's almost like a pulsating boom, 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 boom. And it would just radiate out. I could feel it through my entire body. And as he got up to my throat, it's like he's constantly moving up. When he gets to my throat, my human mind is beginning to go a little bit crazy. While I know that this is something I agreed to do, and I even consented before this process began, I consented for this to happen. But then my human mind kicks in and it's like, I have consented to this, and now I am completely vulnerable. And these beings that are so much more powerful than me have complete control and they could do absolutely anything that they wanted to. So it's just that ego kicking in, and I'm beginning to get scared. Um, once they get into the throat, I feel like I can't breathe. It feels like the energy that they're sending into me is increasing in intensity. It's getting faster. Boom, 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 boom. It's radiating out, and I'm feeling it more intensely throughout my whole body. And it continues to move up. And as it gets up to the center of my head, and I was trying to describe it to my brother the other day, but I said it was like if you took your head and you split it into four quadrants. If you split it in half this way and you split it in half this way, where those four quadrants meet, that very center, he was sending energy straight into it. And it was with such a force that it was as if my brain were being shaken violently back and forth inside my skull. It was debilitating. It was intense. It was terrifying. It was terrifying because I had never experienced anything like that before. It was terrifying because you don't think your human body can take something like that because you've never experienced it before. And as the intensity is increasing, it's like he's turning a dial up. It's like he's got his hand on the stereo and he is just cranking it all the way up. And I begin to hear this high pitched tone inside my head. And it starts out and it's already like eardrum rupturing, high pitched screaming tone, and it just builds and it builds and it builds, and my brain is shaking, and I'm having these thoughts. I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to have a seizure. And then there's this, oh, you're okay, everything's going to be fine. If you couldn't handle this, we wouldn't be doing this. It's like this, everything's going to be okay, this is a business transaction, we wouldn't be here if you couldn't handle it. And I'm saying in my head, this body can't take it, this body can't take it. And as it increases and it continues to build, it reaches this fever pitch, this tone inside my head reaches this, it's just the highest pitched tone that you can fathom. And as I'm lying here paralyzed with my eyes open, looking at this being at the foot of my bed sending this energy into me, a piece of geometry forms. And I'm seeing it with my human eyes, with my physical eyes. I'm seeing this geometry overlaid in front of his physical body that is physically in my room. And I'm thinking to myself, what is one of three things? Either what he's doing inside my head is causing me to see this in my mind's eye, and I'm just projecting it over what I'm physically seeing, or this is just materialized in thin air in between the two of us because I physically see it, or the geometry is what he's using to do what he's doing. And once that happened, everything goes black, and I'm sitting upright on my bed, and I realize that they are gone.
One of my first questions was,
Okay.
were you scared? And you said that they kind of just stopped that adrenaline
They
from.
they did. When I realized that someone was in the room with me, that would be your first instinct, that fight, flight, or freeze. And it's like I could feel even before that adrenaline kicked in, they're like, It's almost like they just turned it off. Like, nope, that's not necessary. Yeah.
And you told me that it was shaking so violently that when you were looking at him, it was hard to decipher certain features because it was a blur because you were being shooken
Yeah.
so fast.
Yeah. So at first, like when I said he started in the solar plexus, it didn't affect my vision at the time. But once he got up to the center of my head, it was, yeah, my brain was shaking so violently, or the perception that my brain was shaking in my head, it was so intense that my eyes couldn't focus. It was almost like I was seeing him in lines, like a broken TV screen, the way you would see like lines across it. Um, yeah.
Yes. At first, you thought he was a gray, but as you went to paint him, we now call him Earl.
Yeah. Yeah, I call him Earl. So it's interesting how that happened. I didn't try to paint it right away. I really felt like I needed to just sit with it. I needed to process it. Because I was like, I'm just not ready to paint this yet. Because at first, the first few days, I had this kind of little ball of anxiety in my stomach because I kept going back to that moment that I was frozen in, where it's in my head. It's so intense that I can't take it. I'm trying to scream and nothing's coming out. And so I really had to work with that for a while and kind of process that terror moment in the experience before I felt like I was comfortable enough to actually put paint to canvas. But once I did, um, I started to, I had mixed up all of my colors. I had an array of different shades of gray laid out, and I went and I loaded up my brush and I put it on the canvas and I said, no, that is not right at all. And so, I kind of take a minute, I take a few breaths, I'm putting myself back in the room and I'm like, oh, what did he look like? And so I'm back in my room and I'm like, okay, let's try this. And so I added a little bit of blue and I just, added a little blue tint and went back in and I put it on the canvas and I'm like, it's not blue enough. It's not blue enough. And then I would go back and I would meditate it on a few more minutes. And then each time I would go back into that space and revisit that room on that night, it was like the room was getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And he became more and more and more clear. So as I painted him, he is not gray. He is blue. He does have the deep large eyes, the enlarged cranium. He has those gray features, but he is not gray in color. And yes, I did call him Earl. 'Cause
I love it.
it just fit. I don't know.
It does. It does. All right.
So after this experience happened, looking back to the 8th, the day before, and this dream that I had that I was so obsessed with deciphering this dream and this sense of urgency that I needed to share it. Um, I discovered that, yeah, the dream was pointing directly to that experience. In the dream, there were there was someone that was coming from far away to bring me something, and there was someone they were going to be taking something in return. They were coming from far away, but they were already here. They were leaving me a gift. Like it was very, very prophetic in nature, very precognitive in nature. So that in itself was very profound to me. Just having realized that I knew it was coming. I just didn't know it was coming.
And you're starting to pick up on that. And I think that is going to be part of your upcoming trajectory and following your excitement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm following the excitement. We discussed, leaving our jobs and people have asked me, well, what are you going to be doing? Are you retiring? And I'm like, I'm just going to be painting in my pajamas for a while because that's what I love to do. And whatever I'm supposed to be doing is going to present itself. I have absolutely no doubt. All things in divine timing.
What did you say earlier? A full-time seeker?
I'm going to be a full-time seeker. Absolutely. Yes. Spending my entire days doing nothing but the things that light me up and feed my soul.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Brooke, for sharing your experience and really getting out of the closet.
Yeah, thank you for having me. In a lot of ways, I'm actually in awe of myself that I did this, but yeah, I couldn't imagine sharing it with anyone else.
It's a new version, a new timeline, and who knows what's going to happen next. I foresee big things for the both of us.
I do too.
Thank you.
Thank you.